In this tutorial, I want to show you two different ways that you can light a portrait and create two completely different styles. You can choose to light just with daylight, and in this image what I've done is I've exposed for the skin tones and let my background completely blow out. So this is kind of a fashion lifestyle look that you can achieve. Taking that same location and changing my aperture and adding a speed light, I can create something that looks completely different, and it is a far moodier image. So this is really handy if you want to create lots of variation when you're shooting the same model. You can shoot them with daylight and then bring in a speed light and create something moody. So let's have a look at how that's done now.
This shot, there's a couple of different ways. There's a couple of different ways you can shoot everything. So what I can do is take the fashion approach to this shot and just shoot with daylight basically. So I'm exposing for skin tone, which means I'm going to blow out the background, not entirely because we've got like a dark mountain of green behind him, and then there's some boats that are lit by the sun. So if I expose for Caleb's skin tone here, the background's pretty much going to blow out, but you'll get a sense of something. So that's like a fashion look. The other way to do it is I can drop the exposure and expose for the background, or even make the background a couple of stops darker and go for a moodier, more dramatic shot. So I'm going to try both ways and show you the different options. So I've got him on the skateboard, I've given him his stance. First up, I'm going to shoot the fashion look. Couple of things I want to talk about. Again, here we've got a location where you look at it with the naked eye, and of course the naked eye sees about, it's quite wide, so I'm seeing from the car over there to the house over there in one go. And then so a lot of people, when they come to a location, take in the whole area, and it's hard to visualize what it'll look like with a different lens. So if I was shooting this with 24, I'd get a lot of the background in, and that's going to be really messy. If I'm shooting now, I'm shooting on 200 millimeters. What it's done is the field of view is very narrow, and I'm shooting between the boat and the car on the right, and I'm getting an image that's really clean, and it looks like we've got the entire location to ourselves. So another reason why I love to shoot long. It gets rid of all the unnecessary guff in the shot.
The first thing to do before you set up for the shot is just make sure that your model's makeup and hair and clothes are exactly how you want them to be. So often clothes don't fit well, so there's things you can do, little tricks like clipping the back of a jacket to make, because this jacket looked too big, so we clipped it so that it was a bit more fitted. Makes a huge difference to how the shot looks overall. So just doing a check of wardrobe first, and hair and makeup, and then I like to spend a little bit of time just doing a bit of chit chat, just to connect with the model before I start directing. So I don't like to jump straight in, so I just talk about whatever you feel comfortable talking about. It can be about pets or friends or how they got here, just to develop some kind of a relationship. I always like to include the model in the shoot, so I explain how I'm shooting, where I'm setting up, where the camera will be, so that the model feels like we're working together rather than just me telling them what to do. And then I think finally the most important thing to do is show your model how you want them to pose. So in this case, I've got a skateboard, and I've actually gotten on the skateboard to show him the stance and the attitude, and also where he is in relation to the camera. I think this is really important. It helps make your model feel more comfortable. And here I'm just talking through the vibe that I want him to present himself, just to stare me down and be really cool as you stand on the skateboard. Oh, and a quick little tip here, when I'm shooting like kneeling down so I want to get low, I use gardener's knee pads. I carry them around, they're light, they slide into the top of my camera case, and having these, you can shoot all day and it's really super comfortable. It makes a big difference to your shooting experience.
We're doing this as a fashion look, so I'm going to expose for Caleb's skin tone. So I'm at f2.8 at 1/125th of a second. That's a bit blown out, a bit overexposed, so we'll just go.
It does look like a Hemsworth brother.
Looks like one of the Hemsworths. Yeah. So as a fashion look, again, it's like the shot we did where we've got a window light behind. You're completely blowing out the background and it's just all about Caleb there in the shot. And it's beautiful. Caleb Hemsworth, is it? Caleb Pitt. It could be any one of those. That looks amazing. So that suddenly looks like, instead of being a beach location, it looks like it was shot on in a studio. It's just like black and white. This will look great as a black and white because there's no tone in the shot. So that's one way to do it as a fashion shot. The other way is to reverse that and to drop the mood entirely and shoot it with lighting, so it's a moody shot, which is going to have a completely different vibe. All right, and we'll just bring the, that's it, just stare me down, Caleb, that's beautiful. Bring the silver reflector in, thanks. Just want a bit of a catch light in his eyes, that's beautiful. That's nice. Just where my hand is, just gazing out that way, that's great. Hey Fo, can you just get rid of some flyaways on the top of his head? Just. It's like the hair's blowing like it was trained. Just on the top, just the little. It's all lovely, like the little spikes on the side. Yeah, that's lovely. Okay, and eyes back to me.
To create the daylight fashion look, expose for the skin tone. So I'm taking my reading off the skin tone and I'm letting the background blow out. And I'm also, in this image, using the breeze that's blowing around, and that adds life to the image. All right, so let's take it up a notch now and add some fill flash. So same location, and what I'm going to do is drop my exposure and take a shot without light, then I add my flash, and then I take those two images and merge them together in Photoshop to easily remove the light that's in the shot. So I'm shooting with a Gary Fong diffuser, and that's attached to the speed light, which is held by an assistant or could easily be held by on a light stand. So to start with, the first image I take, I have my model in the shade, and f-stop 16, shutter speed 1/200th of a second, ISO 100. So we've created this moody look. I'm adding flash to the image. My mode is set to manual and the power settings are full power. The problem with this setup is it looks really flat to me. So I want to have that rim light, and I've got that opportunity where I can see that the sunlight is coming in from behind my model. So if I just get him to move back a little bit into the sunlight, I can take advantage of that daylight that's streaming in behind him. He is backlit. So now, same setup. What I'm going to get is I've got some beautiful rim lighting happening. So what I get is a beautiful hair light, and it's not as flat as the previous image when he was in the shade. So a much nicer look just by taking advantage of that hair light. So don't be afraid to shoot with the sun backlit. I think it really helps with the images and the whole look. So fairly simple process. I think it's really important when you're starting out using this technique, if you want to have the flash close to your subject, like I do. You can see the assistant there holding the flash very close to the subject, is that you're going to need to shoot with a tripod. It's going to keep everything nice and steady. You can see that I'm shooting with a very long lens and I'm quite far back, and that's to give that nice narrow field of view. Once I've taken the shots with the flash, I ask my model to move out of the frame. I don't change my settings, lock off my focus, and take a shot without anything in the frame. So I've got my image that's lit with flash. I combine that with the image that's shot without flash and merge those two together in Photoshop to create the final image. And finally, I've got a variation of the two techniques. So working with fill flash, but this time I'm going to change my settings and create that fashion look combined with fill flash. So it's somewhere in between the two images that I've created today. This is really handy because what you want to do is, when you're doing these portrait shoots, is try and create as much variety as possible. So you can see that I'm up and off the tripod now and coming in nice and close, using my feet to zoom in this time and filling the frame with an image. So here's an example of this technique. Now this time I've changed my settings back to very similar to what I used for the fashion look. So this is an f-stop of f4.5. My shutter speed is now 1/100th of a second, and I'm shooting at an ISO of 100. And the biggest change is my power settings have now gone from full power to a quarter power. So it's just a little dook of light that's going into the face. I've also added a silver reflector to this shot, so I'm bouncing light back in the face. So I've got the speed light being held by the assistant with the Gary Fong above the head, and sort of you can see that it's pointing flat onto the face, and you just need to make sure that you're constantly watching the position of the light, because depending on who's holding it, it can move around a little bit, and that can be the difference between great lighting and pretty average lighting. So make sure that you're consistent